Welcome to the Thursday night stream. 2 for 2, second stream of the week. Got a bit of a mixed bag of topics that I'm going to be talking about today, and took some requests from the members' Discord today that I'm going to address. So, I want to touch a little bit more on metabolic issues, specifically insulin resistance and diabetes. Talk a little bit about edge cases and how to really hone in on what exactly your issue is. Then talk more specifically about the ideal types of foods to put in your diet plan. What are the best foods to eat and which ones are the worst, right? So kind of going in order of priority of which are the best foods that you get the most bang for your buck. Like if I was to create a diet plan, what are some of my favorite foods to put in a diet plan, right? And how do I determine which foods I want to put in a plan, right? So I'm going to be talking about that as well. And then doing a little bit of Q&A also, right? So whatever questions y'all have for me, I'm definitely going to be getting to those as well. I'm not going to keep y'all too terribly long, but at the end, I might touch on some mindset stuff if I have the time to do so. All right, so yeah. So touching a little bit on, and I'm definitely going to talk about things like type 2 diabetes, especially high blood pressure, which are two very common things that people deal with. Because these things will directly relate to how effectively you're able to lose weight, or even how effectively you're able to build muscle, right? And basically, the thing to really focus on when it comes to your metabolism is pathways, right? And when it comes to your metabolism kind of gets split in two, right? There's two main pathways. One pathway is to metabolize fat and use that for energy, and the other one is to metabolize carbohydrates and use that for energy, right? And so you can kind of split your focus where you can get away with certain things in your diet, generally speaking, but the more severe your issue is and the more disciplined with your diet you have to be, right? And through all the scientific research, right, there's a pretty clear-cut way of which direction to go when you hit that fork in the road, right? So this is a thing also that you'll have some people who are like, let's say bodybuilders, where they get very, very granular with this. And basically one thing bodybuilders will do is leverage your metabolism as much as possible, right? So they'll go really hard in one direction or really hard in another direction. They'll split, so they'll go left in the first half of the day and then go right in the second half of the day. So left would be predominantly carbohydrate based, and then the other half of the day would be predominantly low glycemic and, fats and proteins sort of deal, right? So I want to talk a little bit more and get a little bit more granular about that. Lorraine, thanks mama for the 9 roses, the 10 roses actually, much appreciated for that. Good evenings folks. By the way, where are y'all tuning in from? City, state, country, and all that. All right. What time do you start on Tuesday? I start on Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, or roughly 8 p.m. Eastern, right? I may take a couple minutes getting in. All right. So yeah, definitely. Michigan, big shout out to Michigan. Myrtle Beach, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. Good to see you in here. Good evening. Big shout out to North Carolina. What's going on? Welcome. California's in the house. San Antonio. What's going on, folks? Welcome to the stream. All right. Canada. What's going on, Tris? Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you in here. Raw Vegan Bliss. What's going on? Welcome. Big shout out to you and tuning in from Alberta. Brooklyn, New York. What's going on? Big shout out to Brooklyn. Ontario, welcome to the stream. Good to see you in here. Yes, y'all. Massachusetts, big shout out to Massachusetts. That could be a tough one to say, couldn't it? Could be a tough one to spell also. Tris, thank you for the rose. Appreciate you. Philly, big shout out to Philly. What's going on? Welcome to you in the stream. Appreciate you. North Carolina, what's going on? Welcome. All right. So You've heard me on the stream talk before about the two different types of metabolism, right? You got your carbohydrate or glucose metabolism, right? Carbohydrate metabolism, so to speak. And then you got your fat metabolism. Usually people say, I want to improve my metabolism, but you're going to have to specify what metabolism you're talking about. Because metabolizing fats versus metabolizing carbohydrates follow two different pathways, right? They don't really metabolize or break down in the body in the same way, right? It's very different processes. And your body doesn't really effectively do both at the same time. It usually will major in one and minor in the other, right? So at any given time, one is taking a backseat to the other. So it really depends on what the dominant macro is in your diet. So the more dominant fat is in your diet, the more dominant fat metabolism is going to take place, right? So if your diet, the higher your dietary fat is, the more carbohydrates are going to break down into glucose and then store, inside your fat cells, right? And this will lead to things like weight gain, right? So if you're eating a lot of fat and then eating carbs with it, your body will more than likely focus on metabolizing fat and storing the carbs, right? Or breaking down the carbs and storing the glucose from the carbs as glycogen in your fat cells. Right? Right? Subcutaneously, viscerally, and get stored in your liver, right? All fat you eat gets stored as well, right? But that's pretty much how that's going to work, right? So basically, if your diet on the flip side is mostly carbohydrates, your body's going to prioritize burning the carbohydrates for energy. And the less fat you have in your diet, the more insulin sensitive you become over time, right? So when we talk about insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance, these are two things that are predicated on what your macros look like, right? So more fat equals more insulin resistance over time. Less fat, more carbs means more insulin sensitivity over time. This is pretty much how it works if I was to break it down in a simplified way, right? The reason why this is very important is because, let's say you have a metabolic disorder like type 2 diabetes, for example, right? You can make yourself very insulin resistant over time by doing things like cutting carbs, engaging in aggressive forms of fasting, right? Because fasting actually improves fat metabolism. It can improve insulin sensitivity. It can, but it depends on how you break your fast and how you eat, right? After that. So one of the best things that a person can do if they're trying to reverse type 2 diabetes is have mostly a carbohydrate-based diet. Now you may say, well, carbohydrates, well, they raise my blood sugar. That's to be expected, right? Anything that breaks down into glucose, right, like carbohydrates, the more glucose gets converted from the food that you eat, the more glucose you're going to have in your blood, right, naturally. Just like with fatty foods, you'll have more fat in your blood. What you really want to look out for is the trend. So basically, your average blood sugar on a weekly and daily basis and a monthly basis will decline as your insulin sensitivity improves, right? Same thing with weight loss, right? You don't want to say, Monday it showed that I lost 4 pounds and then I weighed in again on Thursday and now I'm back up 2 pounds and I weighed again on Sunday and I'm down 1 pound. You don't want to look at the day-to-day weight. You want to look at the trend. So your weight can undulate up and down, but it trends in a particular direction. So if you go down 3 pounds, up 2 pounds, and then down 4 pounds, and then up 3 pounds, and then down 5 pounds, and then up, so you're trending down, right? So you want to look at the trend. Don Ann, what's going on? Welcome. Good to see you back in the stream. Agnes, Don Ann, thank you for the 6 roses. Appreciate you. So same thing goes for like insulin sensitivity. The more insulin sensitive you become, the less insulin you have to supplement with, right? The less insulin you have to inject, right? That kind of thing. Because you become more insulin sensitive, which means the glucose shuttles into your cells a lot more efficiently as you become more insulin sensitive. So you have to think, right? Well, do I want to treat my diabetes or do I want to reverse it? You kind of have to pick and choose, right? Now, you can eat low glycemic foods, and for the most part, right, when you stick to foods that are 55 and below on the glycemic index, generally speaking, that's a great way to regulate and manage your blood sugar, right? But if you are extremely insulin resistant, meaning that you've obliterated your metabolism, where like, you know, you eat like 3 grapes and your blood sugar rises to like 280 or something like that, well, you got to eat your way through it, right? That means that's a pretty severe level of insulin resistance, right? And there are some edge cases like that. It's not really as common in my experience, but it does happen, right? So you may freak out if you stick a grape in your mouth and your blood sugar goes through the roof and you say, oh my God, I can't eat anything with carbs, right? And so you just stick to having fatty foods. You're eating almonds and cashews. You're just eating dark leafy greens and all of that, right? You're avoiding carbs like the plague. And what happens is you make your insulin resistance worse to the point where you can never really enjoy foods with any kind of carbohydrates in them because you've avoided your problem. You've just avoided it altogether. It's kind of like being in an abusive, it's kind of like being in a, not an abusive, but it's like being in a relationship with your partner and you have a conflict with your partner, but you never speak to him about it, right? So y'all have a falling out, you get into an argument, and then you give each other the silent treatment. But you stay in the relationship, right? But you don't address the problem, you just avoid it, right? It's kind of like what people do with their diet. When you're trying to treat your diabetes, your primary thing is avoiding a blood sugar spike, right? But when you're trying to reverse it, that's entirely different. When you're trying to reverse your diabetes, you're trying to lower the trend and improve your average glucose levels, right? Your average blood sugar level. And the way that you do that really is sensitizing your body towards carbohydrate and glucose metabolism, right? Primary way to do that is, well, if you want to get good at anything, you have to repeatedly do it, but you do it in an intelligent way. So an example of that would probably be, like, let's say you ate a meal that was carbohydrate heavy, but, you took your insulin with it. You've had, let's say you had a protein smoothie with a tablespoon of moringa powder in it. Or, you made oat pudding, but you put cacao powder and cinnamon in it to kind of help with the blood sugar levels. Maybe with a fruit bowl, you had like a fruit salad or something like that. And so you had like a cup of ginger tea or turmeric tea or a combination of the two, right? You put ginger and turmeric in your tea like I did tonight, and you have that with your meal, right? There's ways and things that you can leverage, that you can use as leverage to help blunt the effects that the glucose can have on your blood sugar, right? And when you stick to these strategies diligently, and you follow a diet like an 80-10-10, for example, where probably like 80% of your calories or 65% of your calories come from carbohydrates, and the rest comes from proteins and fats. That's a great strategy for improving your insulin sensitivity. So what happens is your body prioritizes and gets really good at glucose metabolism, right? And it has to get good at it because it's got to deal with the load. The caveat is food choice. So this doesn't mean, hey, if you eat Skittles with every meal, your body's going to get really good at metabolizing Skittles. And it doesn't really quite work that way. The food choice does matter, right? What is the nutrient profile of the food, right? So, for example, you're going to get a lot more benefit out of something like a sweet potato than you would, a pack of Jolly Ranchers. You get a lot more out of like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, goji berries. You get a lot more out of tangerines, apples, pears, right? Because the nutrient profile of these things. Because these are foods that actually help to lower inflammation. Now, having massive blood sugar spikes generally can be pretty inflammatory, but if the blood sugar spikes are coming from foods that are loaded with antioxidants that help to drive down oxidative stress, well, it's a great hedge to engage in. Because the foods that you're eating are counteracting the potential inflammation that you can have from the blood sugar spike. Right? So that is something that, you'd want to consider and keep in mind, right? Out of all the foods that I'm eating, is it improving my future? How is my body going to respond in the long run? The most successful people in the world are the people who have a long-term vision, meaning they're not trying to get an immediate effect from what they do right now. Whatever they're doing now, they expect a return from it down the line, right? End of the week, end of the month, end of the year, that type of thing. They're looking to establish a trend line, right? If you talk to day traders, Wall Street investors, swing traders, they're looking at, the 200-day average, the 200-day daily moving average, right? They're looking at a long-term chart. They're looking at annual and quarterly price chart data and all this type of stuff, trying to establish some type of trend line, right? To see, hey, are things moving in a particular direction, and how can I take advantage of that trend line, right? And that's a great mindset to have. And that's the kind of mindset that you should have with your food, right? So when it comes to something, even if it's not like type 2 diabetes, even if it's not something like lowering your blood pressure, even if you just want to lose weight, same thing applies, right? Because the thing is that to lose weight, calorie deficit can work, but it depends on how you're achieving the calorie deficit, right? A better goal is to improve your metabolism, right? The best way to lose weight is by losing the weight through improving your metabolism. That's the ideal way to do it, right? Because this gives you a certain level of freedom, right? If you improve glucose uptake into your cells, well, that means that your body works a lot better to utilizing the energy that you get from your food. So with the people that I coach, one thing that they all tell me, the people who I work with and I coach and put on diet plans and stuff, one thing they all tell me is I sleep better, I have better energy, and I have better mental clarity. This is a common thing I hear all the time. If you sleep better and you have more energy and better mental clarity, that is because the foods you're eating are foods that your body is having a much easier time pulling nutrients from and pulling energy from, number one. And those foods come with nutrients that allow your body to improve as far as your metabolism, right? Energy conversion, things of that nature. So the actual dynamics of the food actually help to establish a trend, which makes you feel better. Improved hormonal output, all that type of stuff. More serotonin, more melatonin, more dopamine sensitivity, more insulin sensitivity, right? Better thyroid, production, right? You get more balanced levels, right? Better functioning liver. You don't get all kind of crazy liver enzyme all high and through the charts and whatnot, right? And that comes from not just the macro, but the micronutrients of the foods. That's why, the full nutrient profile of the food matters. Last thing I'll say about something like type 2 diabetes, right? If you're going to get a test, your A1C score is good to know, right? That'll tell you whether or not you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. But another test that you should get is called a C-peptide test. And that'll tell you how much insulin your pancreas is producing. And this is the thing that you'd want to know if you want to know how insulin dependent you are. Is your pancreas actually producing enough insulin, or is it not? Right? If your pancreas isn't really producing insulin, then that would imply that you are more insulin dependent. If it is producing enough, well, it's just a matter of improving glucose uptake using the pancreatic function you have. Right? So it's good to know that. It's good to know your type, right? Know which slot you fit in. Before I move on to the next thing and get deeper into this, let me see what kind of questions y'all are asking me here. Tell us how to improve your metabolism. I'm going to get into that. Fruit is power. True. Gigi, thank you for the wishing bottle and the mini speaker. Coming through with the love on the chat. Thank you. It's good to see you in here. Shelly Rose, thank you for the rose. Good to see you in here. Shelly Rose with the rose. Agnes, thank you for the roses. Agnes, coming through with the flowers. Dawn Ann, thank you for the 6 roses. Appreciate you. Yes, yes, y'all. All right. I'm taking levothyroxine, thyroxine for my thyroid. Want to stop? What can I do? It really depends, right? Do you have your thyroid? Does it actually work? Right? Like if you don't have a thyroid, you're probably going to be taking levothyroxine in perpetuity, right? But if you do have a thyroid and you just need to improve the functionality of your thyroid and your liver, well, that's a different issue, right? Then you can perhaps get off of the thyroid hormone, right? And I've had people do that as well. How do we know if we're pre-diabetic or full-blown diabetic? Your A1C score will tell you that. That's right. They need a consultation. Yeah, request a consultation with me. Hit the link in my bio. If you go to my profile right up top here, you can request a consultation through the link in my bio. Coach Spitting Pure Facts, y'all. Jump on board. True. Thank you for the shout out. Appreciate you. So, getting into how to improve your metabolism. Well, when we're talking about, okay, yeah, so if your A1C is 8.9, you're definitely diabetic, right? Just full blown, right? As far as improving your metabolism, generally speaking, a good guideline towards improving your metabolism is having, of course, like I said, your carbohydrates be the bulk of your diet, but in particular, limiting fat consumption to about roughly 30 grams a day as a general number. So I could say 10 to 15% of your macros coming from fat, but if I was to give you like a very specific number, generally speaking, it's going to be around 30 grams, right? So I've put together diet plans for people, and it's been anywhere from around 26, 28 grams, 30, 33. So it's usually around that number, within that ballpark, right? So definitely having probably the majority of your meals, like let's say if you have 3 meals, chances are at least 2 of them is going to have fruit in it, right? So you're probably going to have 2 fruit heavy meals, with like 1 meal, it has like sweet potatoes, legumes in it, maybe some quinoa, things like that, right? You say you love the microphone? Yeah, I'm like, it's about time to update the sound quality. Samaj, I think, appreciate you tuning into the stream. Coming through. What would happen if I eat, what is that, tamarind every day? I don't know what that is. I don't know what tamarind is. So, that's a good guideline, right, to improving your metabolism. You minimize your fat intake. So, for example, your fat sources would probably be things like flax seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seed kernels. It could be things like avocado, right, so to speak. It could be things like that. Generally speaking, when I make a diet plan, there's probably going to be about 1 or 2 days out of the week where the fat intake is going to be higher, right? So, for example, you may have like 1 or 2 days out of the week where you have like cashews and avocado or something like that in the plan, or hemp seeds with the avocado and things in the plan, right? Like that taco salad I put up. And that'll generally be like once or twice a week, but pretty much all the other days are going to be mostly carbohydrates, right? Mostly carbs. So, bananas generally are your friend. Grapes, right? Grapes are your friend. Blueberries. I'm a big fan of blueberries. Goji berries. By the way, my top foods are going to be fruits. So if I had a hierarchy of like foods, right, as far as improving your metabolism, that's going to be fruits for me. That's up there. It's probably like if you wanted to eat foods that would have the most benefit to your metabolism, it would be fruits. I'm a big fan of melons, watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydew. I gotta eat more mangoes. I'm a big fan of mango, right? Pineapple. Some people don't do very well with pineapple. Some people have a little bit of an allergen to pineapple. It may be too strong, too sweet, or kind of leave your mouth a little sensitive, right? If that's you, you don't have to do pineapple, right? Papaya. That's another thing I'm gonna be getting into this summer, right? Papaya. It's a good one. Kiwis. Good one. I'm a big fan of kiwis. Strawberries, right? Things like this, these high fiber fruits. Big deal. Right? Sour sop, if you can get it. That's a solid one. That's a good one right there. Do I enjoy dragon fruit? I like dragon fruit. It's got a pleasant, mild flavor. It's not a super kick in the mouth, but it's kind of creamy and, and juicy. And it's got a nice, subtle flavor to it. I like it. They're really expensive, though, so I'm not eating them that often, right? It doesn't really justify the price tag for me, so I'm probably not doing a whole lot of dragon fruit. But you know what? If my budget and or my location significantly changes, then that might be something that I incorporate more of. Pears, peaches, plums, right? Bananas. These are things I'm a big fan of. As far as putting in plans, right? Second on the list is going to be leafy green vegetables, right? Anything from the mustard green category is a big deal, right? Cabbage. My favorite cabbage personally, is bok choy, Chinese cabbage, right? That's my personal favorite, right? Mustard greens and things from the mustard green family, like broccoli or cauliflower. I'm more biased towards broccoli. I generally like my foods to be pigmented, right? That nice, beautiful green pigment that you get from broccoli. I'm a big fan of that. I had a bunch of broccoli today, and I took like a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and I had a little bit of Thai sauce, and put a little bit of that on the broccoli and stirred it and mixed it around, and just had a few cups of broccoli. It's good stuff, right? And had that with a half cup of cashews. I did that. That was my final meal for the day, and everything else is pretty much raw. I'm biased towards red grapes. So you can get red grapes, green grapes. You can even get black grapes. I like that darker pigmentation. I'm a big fan of that. Apples, Gala apples, Honey Crisp apples, Cosmic Crisp apples, Granny Smith apples. Apples are a big deal, okay? Apples will fix your gut. You got gut health issues? Apples. It's a good idea. If you're diabetic, apples is a safe bet. If you get massive blood sugar spikes from apples, you're going to get it from anything, okay? You freaking breathing will spike your blood sugar, right? But, yeah, good stuff. All these foods I just mentioned are things that help to improve your metabolism. They're very water rich. The fiber are very good for building your gut bacteria. The enzymes found in the fruit, and the closer you eat to the core of the fruit, the more probiotic cultures you actually get in the fruit. Because yes, the fruit does contain its own probiotic cultures. The closer you get to the core of the fruit, that's where they are. Right? Very nutrient dense, okay? Fruits tend to be very high in B1, thiamine, right? That's the mental wellness vitamin, right? The B1, the mental wellness molecule. You got B6, B9, right? You got a dash of B12 and everything in all your fruits, right? Naturally forming B12. Mostly from organic produce. I don't know if that's the case I don't think that's the case with non-organic, but with organic produce, that's where you're more likely to get B12 from. Of course, your safest bet to have a B12 supplement. You don't necessarily have to supplement with B12 every day, but you can do it like once or twice a week. Fruits are very rich in polyphenols. Polyphenols are magical chemical compounds that improve vascular health, eyesight, hair growth, insulin sensitivity, thyroid function, liver function, everything, brain function. Polyphenols, okay? Amazing stuff. Carotenoids, right? Things made to create vitamin A, for example, right? K1, which converts into K2 in the body, right? Good for vascular health, blood flow, and bone density. Right? Second on the list is, so I said dark leafy greens, right? Dark leafy greens are like little mini multivitamins. They're not very calorie dense, which is why they're second on the list. But they're a close first because of the micronutrient profile, right? Green leafy vegetables, right? They're really high in things like omega-3 fatty acids, right? When we're talking about things like spinach and kale, for example. Omega-3s are made in the chloroplasts of plants, right? Not many people say that. What they'll do is they'll say, hey, get wild-caught salmon or grass-fed beef. And you say, well, why wild-caught? Well, it's because those salmon, they eat the algae, and the algae develops the omega-3 for the salmon. The omega-3 is made in the chloroplasts of the algae, right? Grass-fed cows, right? Well, there's that chloroplast thing again, right? So if you don't know why they make the distinction between grass-fed and non-grass-fed or farm-raised fish versus wild-caught, that's why. That's what that's about. Dark leafy greens are very rich in iron, very rich in copper, calcium, magnesium, things like this. The caveat is the absorption rate. These minerals are not 100% absorbed, nor should they be, right? You want the absorption of minerals generally to be regulated in the foods that you eat. And so the fiber does that. Then you have things like tannins that do that, which people like to refer to as anti-nutrients, which are really just a form. I mean, even fiber is an anti-nutrient technically, right? You're not absorbing 100% of everything in the food, and you probably shouldn't, right? Because you don't want to be overloaded with absorbing too much of a given iron, of a given nutrient, right? Because that can happen. A great example of that is something called vitaminosis. You can have too much iron, you can have too much vitamin A, you can have too much vitamin K, right? You can get overloaded. You can have very negative effects, right? But, you have these dark leafy greens. They're high in chromium, zinc, right? All these type of things. Broccoli is it makes some people gassy, right? So if it makes you gassy, you'd probably want to stick to like other forms of mustard greens, or kale, any type of form of kale. Beets, beet greens, things like that, right? Then you got your tubers. You got your turnips. You got your sweet potatoes, really any forms of potatoes, but I'm not really a big fan across all potatoes in general. There's a hierarchy. Sweet potato is at the top of my list, right? There's that pigmentation thing again, right? That beautiful deep orange. I'm a big fan of that. Two things that are very similar to me are butternut squash and sweet potato. They're very similar. The thing about the butternut squash is it's less starchy. So depending on the degree that your metabolism is at, let's say if you're very insulin resistant, you may want to stick to the butternut squash as opposed to the sweet potato, right? one does rank a little bit higher on the list compared to the other, right? Sweet potatoes, great, but you know, I keep wanting to say papaya, so I'm not want to say papaya. It's butternut squash, right? So yeah, butternut squash. It's a magical food, okay? You do lots of things with it. You can make a soup. You can make, you can even make fries with butternut squash. I'm not a big fan of fries. I'm not a big fan of cooking with oil, especially for medicinal purposes. If you're trying to improve your health, you probably don't want to be going too crazy with the oil. You can get away with using a spray like an avocado spray. You get away with that. Me personally, I don't really consume oils. I don't make anything with oils. I'm steaming and boiling, y'all. I'm steaming and boiling. What else? So we got sweet potatoes. We got the butternut squash. We got things like zucchini. Right? Zucchini is pretty good. Zucchini is kind of similar to like a cucumber. Right? Zucchini is probably, it's not like a crazy nutrient dense food per se because it's mostly water, but it does have its nutrient benefits, right? It's a hydrating food, so it's great to throw in there. Like let's say you have a soup or something like that, it's good to throw in there, right? And then there's things like golden potatoes, russet potatoes, red potatoes. These are a bit at the bottom of the hierarchy for me, right? I'm not really putting a whole lot of this stuff in the plans, to be quite honest. My ideal potato is going to be some form of yams, sweet potatoes, yucca, turnips. Turnips are pretty good, right? I like turnips. I'm a fan of turnips. I like the taste of turnips. It's a little got a little spice to it. I like it. But I'm very biased when it comes to sweet potato. Japanese yam. That's a good one, too. I'm a big fan of that. They even got like purple sweet potato, right? Right, that's some good stuff. I'm big fans of that. Right? Carrots. Carrots get a bad rap, but carrots are great. Carrots are loaded with those carotenoids, right? Those antioxidants. It's great to put in a soup. It's great to juice. You juice carrot juice? Carrots are powerful. It's a big deal. I don't know, you know, from carrots get a bad rap from the Sabi crowd, you know, but I haven't seen any bad evidence that shows like, oh, you know, don't eat carrot, don't eat carrots, they mess you up. I haven't seen that. Carrots got a whole lot of upside. I don't really see any downside. What else we got on the list? Grains. I'm not a huge grain person, particularly. I do have a bias towards something like rolled oats, right? Because of things like oat pudding. But to be honest, the best kind of grains are going to be wild rice and kamut. Those are my top two, right? Wild rice, aka black rice, and kamut, which is an ancient grain wheat. Okay? Kamut berries in particular, okay? That's good stuff. I'm going to get on a kamut kick in a bit too. As far as the nutrient profile is concerned, they're generally less starchy, so it may be easier on your gut, right? If you're very susceptible to things like gas and bloating, you may want to stick to the wild rice and the kamut. And then quinoa, that's another good one. So those are probably the three right there. Kamut, quinoa, and wild rice. And even if you have a gluten allergy, okay, depending on how severe your gluten allergy is, I may not suggest kamut. From everybody who I know personally who has a gluten allergy, they don't have any kind of reaction to kamut. When I say kamut, it's spelled K-A-M-U-T. All right? Good stuff. Very protein dense, fiber dense, low on the glycemic index also. Good stuff, right? Wild rice is great if you got patience. It takes a long time to cook though. But low on the glycemic index, really great nutrient profile, protein dense, good stuff. Quinoa, same thing. But kamut and wild rice, that's at the top of the hierarchy there. I'm a big rice boy. I like rice. I just like it. It's not the best food in the world, but I like it. Particularly basmati rice. I don't touch jasmine rice. I'm not doing that. All right. So I like my basmati rice from India or Egypt. Generally speaking, I'm a big basmati rice boy. And one thing that I like to do is cook my basmati rice in turmeric. Make some nice yellow rice. Right? Season the rice with a little bit of sea salt. You can season it with a little bit of turmeric. Right? You put a little cumin in there. It's good stuff. I like it. Let me catch up with y'all questions in here. Question, do you have a holistic herbal supplement for autoimmune disorders? Generally speaking, I don't really have any magic bullets, right? If you have an autoimmune disorder, there's not really going to be like a one particular herb that's going to like fix it. You really have to take into account the totality of your diet. So number one, you probably want to have more of a high raw or raw vegan diet. So your diet should probably be somewhere along the lines of 80 to 90% raw, right? Mostly made up of fruits and vegetables, fermented foods like coconut yogurt, almond yogurt, things like that. Kimchi, sauerkraut, things of that nature. But there are herbs and spices that can improve your situation, right? And generally speaking, if you have an autoimmune issue, the best thing that you can do is have an antioxidant-rich diet to reduce oxidative stress. The goal really is to adopt a diet that's very good at minimalizing or minimizing oxidative stress, right? So those are my general recommendations there. So ginger tea, turmeric tea, things like moringa, right? Moringa powder, you know, things. I'm a big fan of things like this. Ceylon cinnamon, sativa nigella, right? You know, oregano, basil, you know, things of this nature, right? So these are good things to like incorporate into your foods, right? These herbs and spices and stuff, you can incorporate it into your foods. You can put it in teas. Hibiscus tea. You may want to have a hibiscus habit, right? That's a good one. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Ashwagandha is another one, right? So let me get back on track. As far as the grains. So yeah, as far as the grains are concerned, those are my top picks. Right? So I have personal favorites like rolled oats and basmati rice that cook quick. They're very convenient. And you know, they're not they have a decent nutritional profile, but the stuff that's on the top of the hierarchy, that's the stuff that takes a little bit longer to cook. But it's good stuff to put in the plants. Yeah, it's the best going by the numbers. Whether they're my personal favorites that I eat the most or not, right? But they are at the top of the list. They're just not as convenient, right? So I try to straddle the fence between convenience as far as in quality, right? I try to get the best of both worlds. So a great example is I'm biased towards rolled oats because I like to use it to make my oat pudding. But the fact of the matter is steel cut oats are probably a bit better, right? Lower on the glycemic index. Believe it or not, they're less processed. Because rolled oats are kind of processed, right? Because they're literally rolled, they're softened up, cracked, and rolled out, right? Steel cut, not so much. But you're going to be putting some time into cooking those. You're not really going to be making an oat pudding out of those. At least not to my knowledge. If there's somebody doing that, I'd be very interested. I'd like to see.
You can cook it first and then...
Yes, you can cook it first, yes. So yeah, that's the deal. And then kasha. Kasha is toasted buckwheat. That's another one. I'm a big fan of kasha. I'm a big fan of buckwheat. It's pretty good stuff. Can y'all hear her in the background yelling stuff at me? Folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. I shop at Edge. TGE Woods Health Food Store. Second floor organic herbal products. I don't know what that is. Are you trying to say Tiger Woods? Or is TGE Woods? I don't know what TGE Woods. Or I shop at Edge of the Woods? Is that what you mean? Thoughts on black seed oil? I like black seed oil, right? Black seed oil is very good for like rapidly reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, right? So it's good for that. Black seed oils, basically, you got the oil from the sativa nigella, or black seeds. What are your take on eating based on your blood type? I haven't really seen any concrete data that shows that there's any merit to doing that. I haven't seen any logistical or biological, any type of scientific data that supports that. I think you should eat according to your species rather than eat according to your blood type. Right? There isn't any other like living being on the planet that eats according to their blood type. Right? You wouldn't know what your blood type is unless you had access to the labs and the resources necessary to be able to determine something like that. So logistically, I don't see that as being something that has a whole lot of merit to it. Yeah, making your own juice is a good start. Like juicing beets or cucumber juice, juicing cucumber. I keep saying cucumber. It's really cucumber. Right? Juicing fruits, whether it be pineapple or mango or whatever, papaya. Juicing is great. Summertime comes back around, I'm going to be getting my juice on. Bro, where's the fruit? I don't know. I done ate all of my fruit for today. Dedicated for life was going in. I see you in here. I drink soursop tea occasionally. That sounds like good stuff. Drink soursop tea while eating soursop. That's the combo. What would clear mucus from my lungs? Generally speaking, having a more alkaline diet, right? There's not like a specific food that's going to do it, because mucus production is more or less determined by the totality of what you eat, right? So there's not going to be like a one thing that you can put that's going to reverse the rest of your eating habits, right? You got to take a full spectrum approach, right? So there's no magic bullets. It takes forever to cook wild rice, true. All right, let me get back on track here. Legumes. I switched to resistance bands because of your videos. No more pain in my joints. That's right. Resistance bands are king when it comes to harm reduction and muscle growth, in my opinion. I haven't been in a gym since March 2021. Okay. And I think I'm gonna have to give y'all a physique update. But yeah, I mean, it's going pretty well. Resistance bands are really great if you're trying to protect your joints, for sure. Blood type O positive. I've been juicing for years. Okay, got you. Let me scroll up here, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, milk thistle. What are my thoughts on milk thistle? Milk thistle is actually very good for liver function. And that could help you too if you got fatty liver disease or kidney issues. So I think that would be a good investment. Milk thistle tea. I just want to say thank you. I've been applying a lot of your lessons and it has been helpful. Nice. That's what I like to hear. You know what I'm saying? I do these streams hopefully people will be able to use this stuff and start making some improvements, right? So I'm very consistent with these streams. I'll be doing them twice a week. Just dropping whatever kind of valuable information I think I can in here. Thanks for the advice. Awesome live. Thank you. Appreciate you. I've noticed that since going raw, I haven't needed deodorant. That is true. I don't own deodorant. I haven't used, I don't remember the last time I used deodorant. It's been years since since I use any form of deodorant. It's true, yeah, you don't smell. That's for sure. That is true. A lot of raw vegans will tell you that too. Is garlic bad for the body? No, garlic is actually a good like antibacterial, antifungal agent. It's good at reducing oxidative stress. Tastes good in food. Garlic is legit. Your breath might not smell so great though, right? If you really load up on it, right? You go and talk in somebody's face. Hey, how's it going? Right? People be like, whoa, garlic. And it'd be like the slow motion scene in a movie where somebody's falling through a glass window and you see the glass shards passing by them as they're like this. That's kind of how it is when you talk up in somebody's face with garlic. I drink alkaline water 9+. That's advanced right there. I'm just drinking out the Brita pitcher. I'm 63, train 6 days a week. The bands are legit. True. One thing too about the resistance bands is you can challenge yourself really hard you don't have to worry about hurting yourself, right? Like you don't have to get worried about being pinned under a weight or anything like that. You don't got to worry about hurting a joint, because the thing is that with a resistance band, all of the peak amount of resistance gets applied to the muscle in its strongest position rather than its weakest position. So if I'm squatting, for example, with a band, when I'm in the bottom of the squat, where my knees are most vulnerable, that's where the least amount of tension is. But the tension increases as I stand up, so there's going to be a maximum amount of tension on my quads when my knees are in their safest position. That's great. I love that, right? Same thing comes to any other exercise, right? So if you got shoulder issues and you're overhead pressing, well, you don't got to worry about all of the stress being all up on here, because the peak resistance is up here. So it's great stuff. Easier on your joints, I like it. And you can take every set to like the max and get a much shorter, more effective workout, right? Because it maximizes muscle tension. So I'm a big fan of that. Does gallbladder issues slow down digestion? Well, I mean, you mean if you have a gallbladder issue where you're not producing enough bile to properly digest fats, that could be a problem. And slow down digestion, you can have digestion inhibited as a result of that. To a degree. What degree? I couldn't really say for sure. It depends on the person. And it depends on how severe the issue is. What's my favorite plant-based milk? Soy milk. I'm a soy boy. That's the term everybody's using on the internet these days, right? Soy boy. Soy boy in the building. All right, so where was I? Legumes. I got massively sidetracked, but it's all good because we're getting into the Q&A. Legumes, what we often refer to as beans, peas, and legumes, right? And things that are made from these, like tofu, for example, right? Got a hole in my sock. So, legumes are not something you can eat a whole lot of if you got gut health issues, otherwise you're going to be farting, blowing it out, right? Be walking around like a trumpet. They're just right? So you can get a little bit of bloating, right? If you go too crazy with the legumes. So I have a hierarchy of legumes. My hierarchy of legumes is going to be red lentils, green lentils, black beans, red kidney beans, chickpeas, soybeans. Then it's green peas, yellow peas. And then if you want to count these, I guess you can. You can count string beans, or what people call green beans. But those are kind of like a little different, though. Those are a little different. It's kind of like snow peas. Bit different. But, you know, I guess you can include them in there. That's a type of bean. So, yeah, that's my hierarchy, right? In my experience, people experience the least amount of gas with things like lentils. Lentils are probably your best bet if you got gas issues and getting gassy. Red lentils in particular. Red lentils are probably your best bet. Green lentils are going to be second on the list, and then after that, you got your chickpeas, actually, black beans and red kidney beans. But your beans, right? You want to soak them in some water with a little salt added. Let them open up. Okay, you're gonna soak them for a couple hours, and then you got to cook them, and it'd be a while to cook them, right? Because then you got to put some cooking time into them. Let them fluff up and soften up. So one thing I would probably suggest that would make your life a lot easier if you really want to get serious about your legumes is you probably want to get like a little mini crock pot, because you just put it in the crock pot and it'll cook it on its own. Very convenient, right? So that's a good investment, crock pot. And the beauty of that too is that you go on your diet plan, and if your diet plan says 1 cup of lentils, 1 cup of cooked black beans, 1 cup of cooked chickpeas, you can just scoop and dupe. It's easy, right? Big fan of that, right? Big shout out to the crock pot. Yep, soak them overnight. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the overnight stuff, right? Let the work happen while I'm in bed at night. So, as far as legumes are concerned, that's my hierarchy there. Okay. Oh, by the way, going back to grains, another one is teff. Okay. And the thing that reminded me of teff, Teff, is injera, which Ethiopian people are known for. Okay, big shout out to my Ethiopian people with the injera. So if you stop by an Ethiopian restaurant, okay, you get some beautiful foods. Let me tell you something. They'll load you up on the potatoes and the lentils and the peas and the injera with the beautiful sauce, seasoned to perfection. Absolutely amazing. Okay. They're almost 80-10-10 plant-based. Okay. All the just the hardcore with the carbs. Not so much on the fats and the animal products. Okay. So yeah, that's a good suggestion there, right? So big shout out to the injera. Incredibly low on the glycemic index too. So that's a real good safe bet for people who are severely and acutely diabetic. Legumes, low on the glycemic index as well. They're like little mini multivitamins. Okay, we're talking a tremendous amount of iron, fiber, protein, very high in protein actually, copper, selenium, zinc, big on the zinc, calcium, chromium. Okay, them legumes, it builds your bones, it builds your muscles. Okay, it builds your body, it builds your cells, it builds your blood. Legumes, the blood builders, rich in the B vitamins, good stuff, right? Real good stuff. But yeah, 1 serving a day, 2 servings a day, that's enough. You don't want to go too crazy on them, right? Otherwise you'd be passing gas. Do people say that? Do y'all say that, pass gas? Or break wind? I love these terms, pass gas or break wind. I grew up hearing these terms. And then the more crude one is farting, right? But you know, if you're a more refined individual, you may not use words like farting and Putin. You say pass gas, break wind. The wind has broken. The gas has been passed to unwilling participants in a nearby proximity. Inhaling the phosphorus. All right, that's it. I don't want to get too graphic with y'all. You're like, he's being nasty on the stream. Mushrooms. I was asked about mushrooms. GG asked me about mushrooms in the Discord earlier today on our call. How you feel about mushrooms? I like mushrooms. Microdosing with mushrooms, psychedelics, those things have their place. I'm not really a big fan, and well, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan. I don't know enough about them to be a big fan. You know, I'm not really a big fan of anything that takes me out of my right mind. Okay, I don't want to be seeing dinosaurs and stuff like that walking around. You know what I mean? I don't want to have hallucinations. Okay, I don't want to be in that vulnerable state. So I'm probably, I don't know, but that could be a ridiculous trope that I have in my head, and that's not actually how it is. I don't know, right? I'm not very educated on psychedelics, microdosing, or things like that. Not so much. But there's a lot of good data out that shows the very positive effects that mushrooms have on brain chemistry and things like that, right? So you got supplements out there like Kachava, right? Where they got powdered mushrooms. They got mushroom powder in their stuff, along with all types of other nutrients like chia seeds and flax seeds and brown rice powder and all of that, right, to make a supplement, right, for smoothies and stuff. And I've heard a lot of good things about things like that. So you might want to check out Kachava. It's expensive. It's a little pricey for me, but you may want to try it out. Mud, which is a coffee replacement, right? So people say, I got off coffee because of the caffeine, which I agree. Probably want to ease up on the caffeine. And what's in your mug? It's mud. That's like the commercial. You've probably seen it. Mud. I'm drinking mud, right? It's like a coffee replacement. But I like to take mushrooms and put it in my food, right? I like mushroom stews, shiitake mushrooms, baby bella mushrooms, chicken of the woods, right? King oyster mushrooms, that kind of thing. Why do they call it chicken of the woods? Because it has a texture like chicken. It tastes like chicken strips. So yeah, that type of thing. Good amount of copper, selenium, zinc, chromium. It's got all those trace minerals, the mushrooms. Good stuff. Not very calorie dense, but mineral dense. Very good for brain chemistry, things like that. You may want to incorporate mushrooms into your diet, right, in order to improve thyroid function, for example. If you want to, improve, brain chemistry, mental health, that kind of thing. They're probably going to throttle me now for saying mental health. They don't want us talking about that. But that's okay. So yeah, mushrooms. I don't eat a whole lot of mushrooms, right? I'm not really so eager to down a bunch of fungi, right? I think it's important to be a fun guy, but I don't think you need to consume a whole lot of fungi. But that's not a strong opinion I have, so you don't got to hold that to me. You could probably do your mushrooms, once or twice, 2 to 3 times a week, something like that, depending. What I like to do is my miso tofu soup with bok choy and mushrooms. I'm a big fan of that. Nutritional yeast, miso paste, curry powder, cumin, peppercorns, right, for the base of the soup. Right, that Chinese cabbage in there, let that marinate. I don't use a whole lot of water. I use some sea salt in there. That's good stuff. Big fan of that. So that's my miso tofu soup. And I like to load that up, get plenty of greens in there, throw the tofu in there, the mushrooms. It's amazing. It's good stuff, man. You may only want to do that like once or twice a week or something like that, though, if you're diabetic, because of the fat content, because of the tofu. Right? Okra. Okra's dope. Big shout out to okra. Okay? Put a 1 in the chat if you're a big fan of okra. If you like that stuff. That's on the list, okay? Okra, green beans, asparagus. Those are on the list. So if you like that, put that on the list. Get that in there. Collards. Collard greens. Get that on there. My brown folks know about the collard greens. The okra, right? We know about that. The brown folks. Put all the ones in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. They're like, I was raised on that. I know what that is. That's my childhood food. You said I'm just not a fan of okra? Okay, all right. All right. Collards are really high in calcium. True. They're also high in the fiber and whatnot that regulate the absorption, right? So you don't got to worry about getting too much calcium, just enough. What is okra good for? Okra's got a full mineral profile. It's very mineral rich. Good amount of protein too. Good stuff. Your skin is immaculate, bro. Thank you. Appreciate you. Let me tell you something. You clean up in your diet and you eat the way that I do, you do it for long enough, you know, you'll see some stuff happen in your skin. You'll be like, oh, I like that. That's nice. I don't need to put on lotion. I save money not putting on lotion. I couldn't imagine putting lotion on my face or moisturizing my face. I never moisturize my face. It just moisturizes itself. So I don't really have to worry about moisturizing. I self-moisturize. You know how convenient that is when your body self-moisturizes? It's convenient. You know how much money you save? I'm trying to get it to the point where I don't even have to brush my teeth anymore. So we cut out the moisturizing and the deodorant. I'm probably still gonna brush my teeth though. I don't know. I think even because sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and my teeth feel clean, and so I'll be like, hold on, wait a minute, did I brush my teeth yet? Sometimes that happens to me. I forget. I'll wake up in the morning, I'm like, hey, did I? I'll do this. You know how you try to check for the plaque or whatever? I'll go in the mirror and I'll stick my tongue out and look to see if my tongue, because I'll forget if I brush. I'm like, did I brush my teeth yet? And if I forgot, I'm not sure, I'll brush them anyway just to make sure. Because, you know, I'm a hygienic person. I'm a big fan of hygiene. I have a thing about hygiene. Right? I shave my armpits, okay? I'm a hygiene person. You may be like, who's a dude who shaves his armpits? That's right. I don't want bush gardens in my armpits. Okay? Gotta be maintained and groomed. I want my hair growth to be deliberate. I don't want just stuff popping up everywhere random. You know, people just be walking around, hair sprouting out their nose, their ears, all this. Armpits, everything, hair just growing out, sprouting out of everywhere. They're just letting it happen. People look like they're being ambushed by hair follicles. Just stuff popping out of everywhere. Got to get it under control, you know? You don't want people stepping in your yard. Be like, does anybody live here? You know, looking like you vacated the premises and just up and left. You know what I'm talking about? You pass by one of them houses where it looked like nobody lived there because the grass is not cut. You know? You got to take care when it comes to what you eat, and you got to, you know, you got to take care of yourself inside and out. Look at all the laughing emojis and whatnot we got going on here. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You got to keep it tight, keep it right. You got to have some discipline. What else can you take for inflammation besides turmeric? Oh man, there's a lot. I mean, oregano. I mean, generally speaking, for inflammation, if you want to reduce inflammation, you do that with the totality of your diet. You can drink ginger tea, you can drink cinnamon tea, you can drink hibiscus tea, you can drink soursop tea, you can drink all types of teas. There's plenty of medicinal teas, herbs and whatnot, right? You can definitely do that. You know, you can cook with cayenne pepper and cumin and all that. But the totality of your diet, right? That's what's going to do it, right? If you want to reduce inflammation, add a mango to your diet, right? Add some papaya to your diet, watermelon, juice some cucumber, right? Eat more leafy greens, right? Steam some kale and some broccoli, right? Things of this nature. Eat some beautiful, colorful yams. Yams. I like the name yams. especially when you say it with some bass in your voice. Yams. What you gonna have for dinner tonight? Yams. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. I thought about doing that 15 minutes. I'm like, how am I gonna use the word yams? I thought about that 15 minutes ago. And I'm glad too, because I got the mic. I can really lean into I can use the mic, let me tell you. Yams. Yams. Sometimes I wish I had a voice like Barry White. Can you imagine me doing the stream sounding like that guy with that voice? Man. Y'all will probably be looking at me weird because I don't look like I sound like that. Once you're hydrated, your skin stays moist, and you don't age. 50, looking 35. True. Maintaining the trope. Black don't crack. Melanin. Children of the sun. That's what my voice sounds like. You blessed. That's the job interview voice. That's the position of authority voice. People don't talk to you all kind of crazy ways when you got a voice like that. Imagine you get pulled over by the police and you roll the window down, you talk to them like that, they act right. They're like, oh, okay, all right. I'm just going to let you off with a warning. Don't ever pull me over again. You have a nice day, sir. Absolutely. Go get you some yams. All right, that's the last one. I'm not doing it again. That's it. I don't want to wear it out too much. What is the benefits of collagen and peptides? Well, generally speaking, these maintain the tissues in your body, right? So you got these. I mean, there's a variety of different types of peptides, but generally speaking, when it comes to something like collagen, which is more specific, right? That is the most common form of protein in your body. It makes up 40% of the protein in your body. Fun fact, you find that under the Snapple cap. And that's important for doing things like maintaining skin elasticity. Right, so that's important. Sabrina Freeman, thank you for the 11 roses. Appreciate you. Coach ate the funny fruit today. I let it slip sometimes. I get some humor in there. I want to be serious. You know what I'm saying? I want to express the gravity of the things we're talking about, but also I want to keep it light sometimes. But the humor leaks out. What is good for hyperpigmentation? Generally speaking, well, it depends on where you're having the hyperpigmentation. Like, are you having the hyperpigmentation on like your knuckles, knees, and elbows? Right? Are you having hyperpigmentation around your eyes? Depends on where the hyperpigmentation is. But generally speaking, certain forms of hyperpigmentation could be a result of kidney issues, liver issues, when it comes to hyperpigmentation in the areas that I just mentioned, right? So as you improve your kidney function and your liver function, you'll have less of that hyperpigmentation when it comes to around the knuckles, knees, and elbows and eyelids, right? Or on the cheeks and things like that. Recommendation for lowering cholesterol. Thoughts on wheat pasta? I'm not really a big fan of wheat pasta. I'm not really a big fan of wheat in general, to be quite honest. As far as cholesterol is concerned, having a carbohydrate dominant diet and sustaining that, generally a good idea. Your carbs shouldn't be any lower than 50% of your macros. But having a carbohydrate dominant diet where your carbs are like 55, 65, 70, 80% of your macros, generally speaking, is a great way to get down cholesterol. Ultimately, getting your blood fats down, getting down the amount of fat that's stored in your liver, right? basically reducing the amount of stored fat that's floating around in your bloodstream and in your liver and whatnot. That helps to regulate cholesterol, right? Because cholesterol are just, it's fat. It's made from fat, right? So the more fat you inject into your body, right, it's gonna gradually dial up your cholesterol production, right? And then the less fat you have floating around in your body, and your cholesterol lowers on its own, right? So that's generally speaking how that works. What's the best food to eat to get rid of neck pain and pain, etc.? Well, reverting back to my original answer, you got to take a full spectrum approach, right? So there isn't one particular food that's going to do it. It's going to be the totality of your diet, right? So the more effective your diet is at reducing oxidative stress, that's when the pain starts to go away. So I want to say an anti-inflammatory diet that is mostly medicinal, as well as having some exercise. Going for walks, engaging in resistance training with an intensity level or RPE of around 6 to 7, maybe an 8 max, are some of the biggest suggestions that I would make. What's wrong with wheat? Is whole grains better? Whole grains is ideal. I'm a fan of certain wheats, like kamut, for example, right? But when it comes to all of this wheat that's been tampered with and manipulated and whatnot, when I generally see people that consume a lot of wheat, you'll notice wheat belly, right? And I'm looking down, I'm like, what's with all the wheat belly? And after seeing a lot of that, I'm like, I kind of develop a little bit of a bias against that, right? There's a lot of wheat belly going on. And, the thing about wheat is that it's real cheap. And if it's real cheap, it's probably not going to be incredibly beneficial to you, right? So they're putting wheat in everything. They put wheat in all your chips and crackers and cookies. They're putting wheat in the cheapest pastas and all of this. And generally speaking, I'm like, I don't know about that, because the most beneficial stuff typically is not put in everything, right? That's number one. But then also number two, if we want to get more scientific, wheat has a protein composite called gluten. The name gluten, right? Gluten is an adhesive. It's a stickiness. And you can build that up in your gut and build up this gluten in your intestines over a prolonged period of time. And that could really interfere with the way things move through your intestines and the way that your intestines absorb nutrients, right? And this becomes a real big problem for people with eczema, celiac, leaky gut, right? IBS, things like that. So generally speaking, when I have people come to me with gut health issues and, we make a diet plan for them and we avoid putting that wheat in there, we generally have good outcomes. So I have a bit of a bias when it comes to wheat. Hence the gluten-free stuff, yeah. They did scientific studies and they're like, ooh, the wheat's creating a bit of problems for people. And there was a massive gluten-free kick. They did the scientific studies and they found out this new wheat we pushing out is having some problems, is giving people some problems. So now they push the gluten-free stuff. And if you notice, the gluten-free stuff is a bit more flaky. It doesn't have that elasticity that the gluten stuff has because the gluten acts as an adhesive. This is why it's difficult to make like gluten-free cookies and cakes and stuff, because they fall apart and they break and they're dusty and all of that, because they don't have that adhesive stickiness to them. How do you maintain a healthy spleen? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I have any general recommendations for how to maintain your spleen. I've never been asked that before. I don't think I have a good answer for that. I think in general, if you have a generally medicinal diet that is really good at managing and minimizing oxidative stress, that would have cascading effects. That would cause for better spleen health, right? But that's the answer particularly that I would give with that. Can gluten cause skin issues? Yes, it can. If you're going to consume carbs, drink some water with psyllium husk first, then wait 15 minutes. Why? I mean, if you're going to eat carbs, the carbohydrates that you're consuming should have fiber in them. Do you have an opinion about Whole Foods grocery stores? Do I have an opinion about them? You mean the store, Whole Foods? Whole Foods has a lot of great stuff. The prices may be a little high, but they got good quality stuff in there. Hello, sir. How do you maintain healthy kidneys? Stay hydrated. Avoid having a fatty diet. Okay. So generally speaking, I don't feel comfortable with having a diet where like 30% plus of your macros comes from fat. It's a little dangerous. I'd keep it under 25%. So 25% is probably what I feel comfortable with. Any more than that, not so much. So yeah, as far as kidneys are concerned, definitely staying hydrated, eating water-rich foods, fruits, vegetables, eating more raw, lowering oxidative stress meaning, right? Having a low-stress diet, whole foods, fiber-rich foods, medicinal foods. Avoid excess levels of protein, fat, food coloring, preservatives. Definitely avoid alcohol, smoking, fried foods, things like that. So those are a few main suggestions that I would give for that. What are the best greens to eat when on a mainly fruit diet? That is going to be kale, spinach, arugula, romaine lettuce. Those are some of my go-tos. Yeah. Gotta be careful with the drink, and that'll mess up them kidneys and the liver. All right, folks, I think that about does it for tonight. I said a lot tonight. I said a lot of things. So thank y'all for rocking with me tonight on the stream. And I will catch y'all on the next stream Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Take care, y'all.